Hey guys, I had a request to do a video about hurricane names, and they're actually pretty interesting. And I did a little bit of research because I was curious about how they're named or whatever. So I guess in 1953 they started naming, or in 1950 they started naming the hurricanes. And originally they were only given women's names. I don't really know why, but anyway, in 1979, they started using both men and women's names, and each year there's a list of names that is for the hurricanes for that year, and they cycle it. I think it's 6 years. There are 6 lists, and they cycle them. And if a hurricane becomes really famous or causes a lot of damage, they retire that name and replace it with another one in that list. So that was really interesting. And there's different lists for each region. There's a list for the Atlantic storms, there's a list for Eastern North Pacific storms, and a list for Central North Pacific storms, and maybe a couple others. Those are the ones listed here. So I'm going to go through a few famous hurricanes and some of their names, and there was a lot of them. So I just picked some that I thought had interesting names or the most famous or most harmful hurricanes. So the first one, of course, is going to be Katrina, which I think is probably the most famous hurricane, at least within this generation. And Katrina was in 2005, and Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and killed 1,800 people, and this storm caused the record of damage costs. Hurricane Katrina caused over $100 billion worth of damage. Now, I'm going to try and remember to talk about the names also and not just the hurricanes, but I didn't look up name meanings and stuff this time. But Katrina, I think Katrina is a cute name, and actually, I kind of don't like the idea of giving the hurricanes human names, because I think it gives really negative connotations to those names, and it could make some names no longer usable. For example, if I lived in New Orleans, I wouldn't want to name my kid Katrina because I think everyone would have a really negative association with that. I do have a friend named Katrina, and she goes by Kat, and I guess I haven't really thought anything about it until now, but I don't know. I think maybe they should use something more like the name of the first town it hits or something, or I don't know, just other names, or maybe animal type names like Fido or something that aren't people names, but I don't think they're going to change it. So yeah, Katrina is definitely probably the biggest one. The next one, this was in 1989, and this was Hurricane Hugo, and Hugo is a pretty popular name right now. I've been seeing a lot of buzz about Hugo. Hugo hit Puerto Rico and South Carolina and had winds up to 126 miles per hour, which is crazy. It was really windy here today, by the way. No hurricanes, because you can't have hurricanes in Michigan, but it was very windy. I think Hugo is a really cute name. It definitely is very French to me, but I think after the movie Hugo, it's more usable in the US because people are going to know how to pronounce it and what to think of it. The next storm is from 1954, Hurricane Edna, and I hate the name Edna, but I put it on because I thought it was interesting. Hurricane Edna hit North Carolina and in 1954, like I said, and killed 21 people and caused $40 million of damage, which, okay, it's a lot, but it might not sound like a lot compared to Katrina's $100 billion. But this is also in 1954, so you have to think of $40 million was a lot more back then than it is now. So Edna, I'm not a big fan of the name Edna. It's very old sounding. Alright, and then we have in 1954 also Hazel, Hurricane Hazel, and I really love the name Hazel. It's getting very popular now, which surprised me, and I had a cat named Hazel when I was a little girl. Hurricane Hazel hit North and South Carolina and killed over 600 people and cost $350 million in 1954, so that's a lot of money. Then in 1955 we have Hurricane Ione or Ione. I'm not really sure how to pronounce this. I think there's a couple different pronunciations. And this wasn't a really deadly one. It hit North Carolina and killed 6 people. But I thought it had one of the more interesting names. Then in 1961, we had Hurricane Hattie. And Hurricane Hattie hit Belize on Halloween and killed 275 people and destroyed the capital city of Belize. And I think Hattie is really cute as a nickname. I think it's one that's really old and starting to come back into style. I think a celebrity named her daughter Hattie recently. I can't remember who. But I think that caused it to get some attention. And Hattie can be short for Harriet or Henrietta. There's probably a couple other names you could use it for. Then in 1966, this hurricane was nicknamed the Crazy One, Hurricane Inez. And it hit the Caribbean, Florida, and Mexico, so it kind of traveled all around. And it killed 1,500 people with winds up to 190 miles per hour, which is really crazy. I like the name Inez a lot. It makes me think of Hairspray, Little Inez. And I like it a lot more with the S instead of the Z at the end. Then in 1967, Hurricane Beulah hit Texas. And Beulah is such an ugly name. Oh, I do not like Beulah. I don't know if anybody likes Beulah. If you do, I'm surprised. It just sounds weird. And Hurricane Beulah produced over or about 150 tornadoes after it hit land. That's crazy. That's so many tornadoes. And that's the most tornadoes that were ever produced, like, off of a hurricane. Okay, then in 1992, there was Hurricane Andrew, which was a Category 5 hurricane. And Hurricane Andrew cost $30 billion in damages. I know a lot of people named Andrew, so it's a very common name. I love the nickname Andy. I think it's adorable, but I hate the nickname Drew. And I think I've mentioned this in a couple other videos. I really like Anderson as a nickname or as an alternative for Andrew because you can still use Andy. You could also use Andy for other names like Alexander or something like that, but I really like Anderson. Alright, then in 1999, there was Hurricane Mitch, and Hurricane Mitch hit Honduras and caused 75 inches of rainfall and killed over 11,000 people, which is the most of any of the hurricanes on my list here. That's a lot of people. And it may be because Honduras wasn't like as prepared as maybe the U.S. is. I'm not sure. But Mitch, I think it's kind of a cool name. Although there's the drawback that it rhymes with bitch. And I've known 2 people named Mitch. One of them was a huge jerk, so it makes me like it a little less. And then also in 1999 we had Hurricane Floyd, which was nicknamed the Storm of the Century. And Hurricane Floyd covered Florida, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And it caused the largest peacetime evacuation in history of 3 million people that had to evacuate because of the storm. I think Floyd is kind of a cool name. I kind of like it. I don't know if it's really usable. It sounds kind of old, or maybe people will think too much of Pink Floyd. But I kind of like Floyd. I don't know why. The next one, 2004, was Hurricane Francis. And Hurricane Francis hit Florida and killed 49 people. 2.8 million people had to evacuate, and Hurricane Francis caused 75 tornadoes. So that's a lot as well. And I think Francis is kind of a cool name, although it always is going to remind me of Malcolm in the Middle. I like Francis, but again, I think boys might be teased for being named Francis now. The next one is also 2004, was Hurricane Ivan, and this hurricane hit the Caribbean and Alabama and it killed 124 people, cost $14.2 billion, and this was a Category 5 hurricane. I think Ivan is kind of a cool name, but at the same time it sounds a little old. I can't really say why. I don't know. I kind of like Ivan. It's different. I don't know that it's my style. Next, we have from 2005 Hurricane Vince, and this was not a very big or horrible hurricane. I mean, all hurricanes are bad, but it wasn't to the scale of most of the other hurricanes I've talked about. but it was a record setter because it was the first time they had a V name for a hurricane, and the way they do it is the first hurricane of the season is named with the A, and then they go down through the alphabet. So to reach V meant there was like 20, I believe, hurricanes that season, which was the first time that had happened. And this hurricane was also the first tropical storm to ever hit Spain that's been recorded. So I guess Spain doesn't normally get hit by them. And Vince, I almost forgot to talk about the name. I love the name Vince. It reminds me of two things. It reminds me of Vince Gill, who I love. He's awesome. And it also reminds me of the show Recess. One of the characters is named Vince. And I really liked him too. Alright, then from 2006, they had Hurricane Wilma. And this is a Category 5 hurricane. And obviously, since they got to the W's, there was more storms that year. And Wilma hit Mexico, Cancun, Florida, and the East Coast and killed 48 people. Obviously, you can guess I don't like the name Wilma. Wilma's going to remind anyone of the Flintstones, and I think that's just the problem with Wilma. Then 2008 was Hurricane Gustav, which was a Category 5 hurricane that hit Cuba and Louisiana and killed 153 people. And I think Gustav is kind of a cool name. I kind of like it. I don't know if I would use it, but it's cool. Then the most recent one, 2012, was Hurricane Isaac. That was the most recent really big hurricane. Well, it wasn't that big in the sense of its category. It was only a Category 1, but it was very atypical for a Category 1 storm. It was really large, like sprawling, and it moved really slowly. And it hit Louisiana and Florida. And let's see what it say. It only moved 60 miles over a 24-hour time span. So it was moving really slowly. Yeah. So those are all the hurricanes, the famous hurricanes. And I thought I would just quick read through the list of the names for this year. So for 2012, the hurricane names are Alberto, Beryl, Chris, Debbie, Ernesto, Florence, Gordon, Helen, Isaac, Joyce, Kirk, Leslie, Michael, Nadine, Oscar, Patty, Raphael, Sandy, Tony, Valerie, and William. And obviously we already got to Isaac. I'm not sure how much farther than Isaac we've progressed, but my favorite names off of this list are probably Florence. I think that's such a cute name. And then Isaac is kind of cool. I forgot to talk about Isaac, but I kind of like Isaac. I actually really like Joyce. And I know a lot of people think Joyce is an old-sounding name. My grandma has a friend named Joyce. I just think it's one of those old lady names that's ready to come back. I don't know. I think it sounds so pretty, Joyce. I just love the sound of it. And also, if you guys ever watch Milo and Otis, I believe that Milo's kitty girlfriend was named Joyce. So it makes me think of that. Let's see. Yeah, so, and then the ones that I don't like so much, I don't like Kirk. It makes me think of like Captain Kirk. I don't like Gordon. It makes me think of Gordon Food Services and also Lizzie McGuire. I don't like Ernesto. And Beryl. Beryl's kind of interesting. I don't know that I dislike it, but I don't like it. But it's interesting because it's uncommon. Catches my eye. So it's kind of cool. I don't know. It reminds me of Daryl, but with a B. So those are the 2012 hurricane names. So I guess maybe I'll do another video on hurricane names because there's a lot of them. But I like go through the rest of the list or something. But leave a comment which hurricanes you think. First of all, which is the most famous hurricane do you think? And do you think that naming hurricanes after human names is bad or good? Do you think it ruins the names? What do you guys think of that? And also, what names from the list were your favorites? Please subscribe and leave a comment if you can. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.